coffee shop came naturally because I'm Albanian. So
Sure, okay.
It's in every Albanian's dream, I think, to own a coffee shop. So that way we can go have coffee every day without being guilty about it. I'm just here. It's my business. I have to have 4 espressos.
Yeah.
And it came naturally to really build the business plan, build the business model. And I learned a lot. I had one professor, Maureen Stefanini at Worcester State, and she really pushed me, and she made me see myself as more than just a teen mom, more than just a kid living on welfare, more than just a server or an outcast of the Albanian community. She made me see myself as Greta, and I think that was the biggest changing moment of my life.
Welcome to the Founder Story Podcast, where we learn from entrepreneurs about their journey from their first inspiration to their first employee, and even the steps they took to become the powerhouses they are today. Welcome back to another episode, everyone. My name is Rick Porter. I am your host, and today I am joined by Greta Bayrami, the CEO and founder of Golden Group Roofing. I'm going to give you just a couple of the highlights, and then I'm going to let her tell us what the company looks like today. But this roofing company does a lot more than roofing, right? Roofing, siding, gutters, windows, a whole bunch of stuff that we'll get into. But they are an amazing award-winning home improvement company, right? So they've won the Biz Award in 2020, Remodeling Magazine in Big 50 in 2019. Greta's won Worcester Business Journal's 40 Under 40, Business Place, the Better Business Marketplace Excellent, and it goes on and on and on. But welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
Before we dive into your founder story, tell us a little bit about what the company looks like today.
Today we are about 30 employees. We have 2 offices, one in Lexington and one in Westboro. And in our inside sales team staff is about 9 people, 10 now, growing. We're not a lot. I wouldn't say we're a lot compared to how massive some roofing companies are, but we are a very carefully selected group of people that make the magic happen every day. And we were very intentional about every member of the team. And I think we've gotten to exactly where I wanted to be, thinking that we're almost on year 10 now.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I love it. I think that there's so much that you guys do that is different in the industry, and I think we'll talk a lot about that. But I mean, everything, even in the marketing, I know your website, you guys are more of your roofers with hearts, right? You guys are the ones that care. I love it. I love the approach you guys take. I think, we were talking about this before we were on air, but I come from a roofing background. My great-grandfather owned a roofing company, and I remember walking around as a little kid picking up nails, and so I grew up in the roofing industry. I know how difficult and hard the job is and the industry is, and I also know that there is no customer service stereotypically in the industry, and I think that's one of the things that you guys have focused on that has probably contributed to a lot of your success.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a roof is a need, and I think that's the driving force. Every person that gets hired or every person that joins the team, whether they're a laborer or salesperson, they're told that it's a need. People don't want roofs necessarily. No. Sometimes it's a need, and sometimes a need when there's a crisis at home. Maybe they're sick. Maybe they're dealing with the death of a loved one. Maybe they're getting a divorce. And I've been there in all those scenarios, and understanding that's a need is what really pushes that customer service, and that's what is driving forces every day. And that's why I think we've had the success that we've had, is because when you start every meeting with understanding that this is a need for a lot of homeowners, so be careful of how you approach each scenario and be intuitive and listen.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's very rare to find. So let's dive right into it. So, I know the obvious question of all of our listeners is how you got into this industry and stuff like that. But take us all the way back to childhood or wherever you want to start this story. Sure. Where does your story start?
My story starts in Albania. I was born in a coastal city called Vlora, but then my parents moved to the capital, Tirana, because my mom was a surgeon. So I grew up in Tirana. My mom was a surgeon in the time of war, so there was no glamorous $1 million houses. No. It was just my mom doing what's her passion even today, taking care of people. And sometimes that meant missing certain recitals, but my mom was in surgery. So I would get a call saying, your mom's in surgery and we're taking you home. So I was very used to that, and I never once was sad about it. It was more of like, this is my mom, she helps everybody, and it's okay if I'm alone. And I grew up like that. And then we were given the opportunity to come to America through the American lottery system that exists in Albania with the embassy. And we came to Worcester, not because, we sourced it, but because we heard there was a lot of Albanians here.
Okay.
A big Albanian community, a church. So we came to Worcester and it looked nothing like the America on TV. So I remember saying, like, where are the big buildings? Like, I'm thinking Hollywood, because that's what they show in the movies. And it was very depressive. And when we arrived here, we actually arrived right around the corner from where we're speaking here today on Radcliffe Street. It was a triple decker. Again, nothing like the America you saw on TV and those beautiful New York buildings as a kid. But that was my story. That's where it started. It started right here in Worcester, and I would walk to Norbeck. Sometimes I would skip school because I didn't understand the language, so I would hide behind the tree until my parents went to work and I'd come right back. But then I got caught because my parents started getting letters I wasn't going to school.
So when you came to America, did you speak any English?
No, I spoke no English, and I remember the first day in class at Norbeck, the only word I understood was pizza. Because I started on a Friday.
Okay.
So they said, we're having pizza today. And I was like, pizza? Okay, pizza. But it was very sad because it was such a big cultural shock. And I was in ESL classes. And, I got a little bullied because I think I was one of the very first few immigrants. I mean, now the way immigrants are perceived today is nothing like in the year 2000.
Sure.
We've come a long way. So, kids taunting me, making fun of me. I didn't understand anything. So hiding behind that tree until my parents went to work and coming right back in seemed like a pretty good way. But little by little, my mom was like, no, you got to face it. You got to go. You got to just go to school. And I went to school and I started making friends. And then I started really dedicating myself to my studies. So I came to the United States in September. And by January, I was enrolled in regular classes with my classmates. And English really became my language, like right now.
Wow, that's incredibly fast to learn a language. And
I dedicated myself. I threw myself at it. I was like, these kids are going to make fun of me, or I just have to learn the language and join them.
Sure. And being immersed in it, I'm sure probably helped. Did you, so you came to Worcester, obviously you chose Worcester, your family chose Worcester because there was a large Albanian population. Did you connect with those people and were you able to still, speak the language and share the culture and stuff like that? Or did you get here and say, where are all these Albanians if there's such a large community here?
Good question. I mean, because where we landed here in this area, where we rented, there wasn't many Albanians. I was actually one of only 2 Albanians at Norbeck.
Yeah.
And the same thing at Burncoat, because I went to Burncoat Middle School and high school. We were just 2 Albanians. So I actually had to force myself. I only saw the Albanian community when I went to church or when there was a festival or a get-together. I never really had too many Albanian friends. So it wasn't intentional. I wish I had more Albanian friends. It was just because where I was located, my parents didn't have a car. We had to rely on the Worcester public system, to get to where we needed to get. The bus wouldn't come sometimes.
Yep.
So, I used to, it was a really tough time growing up. Immigration's really tough. I mean, we had to walk to Walmart, and it was like it was a nice walk. It was a really long walk.
Yep.
So, if you know this area, I mean, it was a long walk. So, but looking back at it, those were the struggles that any immigrants do.
Yeah.
And of any country. Even if Americans went to Albania today or Italy or France, same things,
Sure.
As you're trying to grow in a different culture, in a different environment, you make some sacrifices. And luckily, those were just physical sacrifices at that time.
Sure. And I'm sure it built a lot of resilience in you and the ability to adapt and things like that. Now, you said you started to focus on your studies. Did you, how did your studies go throughout high school? Did you go to college? Did you study anything there? What's your educational path look like?
I was a smart kid, if I may say so myself. I focused on really becoming in honors and doing all the AP requirements, and that was really my life all through. I was always involved in sports, after school activities, friends, whatever event was happening, because I found that the more I got involved in the school, the less time I'd have to be lonely. Remember, I'm an only child. I'm here in the United States with just my mom and my dad who are working overtime. I don't have cousins. I don't have places to go. So school was where I found myself, and helping out, being the teacher's pet, whatever you want to call it, was where I really excelled. And it wasn't until I wanted to go to law school. That was my dream. I wanted to work in political affairs. I wanted to go back to Albania in some way, shape, or form to help out people and to bring really this Americana culture of freedom and want and desire back to Albania. And long story short, that dream was cut. Because in my senior year in high school, I found out that I was pregnant with my daughter, Kiara, with my first boyfriend.
First boyfriend ever.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It is what it is. Looking back, maybe that was just the way my story was supposed to unfold.
Sure.
You know, you can't change sometimes some things, some decisions. I don't like to say my daughter's a bad decision. I'm not proud of what led me to that moment. But nonetheless, it's a blessing. And today I see it as nothing less. I would never wish it upon somebody else. Somebody's listening, I would never tell them. I think statistically we're meant to fail. And I was a very lucky few that didn't.
Sure. And I'm sure, having a child at a young age probably helped you mature and kind of grow up faster than probably those around you and stuff like that. Do you think that the growing up that fast kind of also made you who you are today as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I grew up overnight because I was a kid taking care of a kid, and there was no choice. There was no prom. There was no graduation party. It was just, how do I take care of this human being? Where do I get a job? Can I work overtime? Can I afford rent? Because at this point, my parents were not going to let me live with my boyfriend in their house, so I had to move out and get my own apartment. And how can I do it? How can I do everything and do it in a way that the child doesn't suffer? Because that was such a big thing for me. I always had this dream that I'd be a great mom and I'd give my daughter or my son everything, and I didn't want that to be compromised because of decision that I made a little early on in life. So how do you do that as a child? How do you grow up overnight to take care of another child, but also give them everything you would have given them if they had come when you're 25 or 30 years old?
Sure. So how did you do it? What did that look like? So at some point, obviously you started your company, but I'm sure there was a lot of milestones before you got there. What did it look like? How did life look like for you?
I mean, it was a tough life. Make no mistake. Even being with your partner is tough because you're trying to condition yourself to fall in love with that person. I don't think you love that person just because you had a child with him. Sure. You're almost saying, let's try to fall in love. Let's try to make a union. Let's try to do all that we can to raise this child. And we knew that we had to find jobs, and we found jobs in the serving industry because it was the only industry that would allow us to go to school. So our schedules would look, I actually unenrolled out of Suffolk University. I went to Worcester State University, not because it's any less than that. I admire Worcester State and all it's done for the Worcester community, but because it was the closest thing to my house.
Makes sense.
From this area. So I was driving. We had a Volvo station wagon. It was a really broken down car. I always talk about it because it would take like 3 times to turn on. Everybody knew that was my car. And we would drive with Freddie, take very similar classes, go to class, and then go to serve. And we were always the people that picked up every shift. Sure. I mean, if you had a shift to give up, we were likely taking it. I worked doubles on Saturday and Sunday because my mom could take care of my daughter, which came with a lot of, here I was supporting for my daughter, here I was paying the rent, but it also made me lose out so much,
Time.
Memories. Yep. She calls me Greta, but I love it. I don't want to use that as a negative today.
Sure.
But why does she call me Greta?
Yeah. Because
I was just Greta. I wasn't, to earn the word mom, you really have to be around your children for long periods of time. To anybody listening, yes, you are the biological mom, or dad, but to really earn that title, you have to be around. And if you are blessed and you're in a financial position that you can be around, then that's great.
Yeah.
And if you're not, it's okay. Because if for my case, I couldn't be, but it was okay.
Yep. Now, what were you studying in school?
I was studying business administration with a concentration in international affairs. I still wanted to keep similar degrees, and that's what I focused all my studies on.
Gotcha. So I read that at one point you had thought about opening up a coffee shop and things like that. So, as I read through and we did research, on you and the company and stuff like that, I think it was very obvious that you had that entrepreneurial spirit from the very beginning. Where did that come from?
I think that just came out for always being like in a leadership position as a child. I mean, just going back to Albania, if there was a contest, people were like, Greta, you're going to be the show host. If there was a fundraiser, Greta, you're going to go and like make the flyer and go scream it out. And even in America, even before I had Kiara, that was my role always, even in high school.
Sure.
And that was born, looking back, that was born from my mom, always throwing me head first into everything. Like my mom was that mom that like if I had a problem with a friend, she would never, ever walk me over to their house to like solve the situation. She'd be like, you want to go talk to the person, you go figure it out. Handle it yourself. And that's how I do it with my kids today. Like if they don't like something, I'm like, okay, go ahead and go to Starbucks and have them remake your drink. Like figure it out.
Yep.
If you don't like it. And it builds that resilience, builds that, okay, like my mom's not going to take care of me. Like I have to go do it myself. And that was the attitude that the atmosphere, and that's what my mom pushed me for. It's like always advocate for yourself. I'm never going to be that mom that like advocates for you. If you're having a problem in school, I'm not coming in. You better find a way to talk to your principal. And that I think that build a lot of those entrepreneurial skills at a very young age. Like, we don't realize how important it is, but letting your child figure out a bad grade by themselves, figure out a bad situation by themselves, handle a conflict with a friend, or even a drink that's made incorrectly, you're building qualities that they can keep for the rest of their life. And I think those were some key qualities that I was able to really identify with. And coffee shop came naturally because I'm Albanian. So
sure, okay.
It's in every Albanian's dream, I think, to own a coffee shop. So that way we can go have coffee every day without being guilty about it. I'm just here. It's my business. I have to have 4 espressos.
Yeah.
And it came naturally to really build the business plan, build the business model. And I learned a lot. I had one professor, Maureen Stefanini at Worcester State, and she really pushed me, and she made me see myself as more than just a teen mom, more than just a kid living on welfare, more than just a server or an outcast of the Albanian community. She made me see myself as Greta, and I think that was the biggest changing moment of my life. And I've called her, and I've been with her so many times, just thanking her for changing my life. And if you have the ability to do that for so many other people, but I'm glad she did it for me, because every day she'd be like, "You can own a coffee shop. Sure you can.
Yeah.
Do the business plan. Let me see. Let me grade it."
And so that's how the coffee shop started. It was all part of a Worcester State assignment project. Yeah. And so you built a business plan and financials around it and things like that.
It was a whole semester project where you had to start it, do the business plan, do the financials, even design the menu, the decor, and then take the whole class and all the professors through a 3D virtual experience of what it would look like and like what was that first, so they could decide whether it was actually going to succeed or fail based on what analysis you'd given about the business. And they said that mine was going to pass.
So you were going to be successful.
I was going to be successful. It was going to be called Tiramisu Cafe.
Okay. So whatever happened at Tiramisu Cafe? How come this one never launched?
Golden Group Roofing.
It's Golden. Yeah, but how did we make that shift from the cafe to Golden Group Roofing?
I mean, I didn't have any money, let's be honest. To start any coffee shop, you need liquid capital.
Sure.
Very, very large amounts, And I think that's another reason why a lot of restaurateurs fail, because they don't project how much liquid capital you need way past just launch day. So I didn't have that. So I said to myself, what can I do? And nobody was hiring me. I know, right? Why are people not hiring me? I was applying for all these jobs, but I think it was just 2011, 2012 was still a really tough time.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people that were older that were getting our jobs coming post-recession. So a lot of new grads were having a hard time getting off the ground. And I saw this ad because Craigslist.org was like a really big thing back then. You used to like buy stuff from like well, a lot of bad stuff happened there too. But
yeah, exactly.
And like people would like scam you. But anyways, I saw this ad, said $300, $200, whatever. And I applied. It was in Nashua, New Hampshire, the position. And it was to just become a roofing foreman. And I became a roofing foreman.
No kidding.
For a woman.
Yeah, I like I said, I grew up in the roofing industry, and I can tell you, for me growing up, it was very rare to see women in the roofing industry. How was that being a woman in the roofing industry at first?
It was very weird. I mean, I make no mistake, and I tell people very honestly, like I wasn't passionate about roofing.
Okay.
When I first started out.
It was a job.
It was a job to get money, and it sounded really good because I'm like 300 times 7. I could work like every day if they have me. Oh, okay, this is great. I'm gonna make money.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna survive, and that's what it was all about. It was a survival. And what I enjoyed about the roofing industry is when I got in there was no stereotypes. People didn't really care what you were.
Yeah.
Nobody cared that you were a teen mom. Nobody cared that you couldn't speak English. Nobody cared, woman or male. Like, you were just another person on the job.
And quite honestly, in my experience with roofing, is sometimes it was ex-cons, it was guys who had drug problems. Like it's hard work. So I remember we used to take whatever we could get. So yeah, I agree. It's a great mix of people from all different backgrounds with all different things going on. So
and I always say that roofing saved my life because emotionally I was going through a lot of depression during this time. I was going through a lot of tough days, and I always stayed. People say, "Did you think about taking your life or whatnot?" I mean, I'm sure there was very dark memories. I never did it because it wouldn't have been right to my mom and to my daughter.
Sure.
To both people, that my mom sacrificed so much to bring me here, and my daughter, didn't deserve that from me. So that's what pushed me every day. But roofing, when I got to roofing, like I realized I wasn't as depressed anymore because I wasn't dealing with stereotypes, and I wasn't dealing with side comments and whispers that I would hear in other environments. So those misfits of society allowed me to blend in and allowed me to just be another person on the crew. And And that's really where I blossomed.
Yeah, physically, it's a hard job as well. So it's almost like going to the gym and getting out that frustration every day.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was a tough job. I mean, it wasn't glamorous. It was dirty. There was a lot of long days. Like, I mean, construction starts at 7, 6 a.m., so you're going to wake up 3, 4 a.m. to be on site at that time. Then they wrap up around 5, 6 p.m., so by the time you are parking your vehicle, maybe it's 8:30, 9. By the time you're in bed, maybe it's 10:30, 11.
Yep.
And you're doing
rinse
that
and repeat
every day.
Yep.
And it's a tough industry, and it built so much grit and character. There was many times where I didn't want to do it. There was many times where I said, this is the last day. But I remember one manager told me that was above me, my superior, and he's like, you're like a kid riding a wave, you're like a surfer. At this point in time, you're too much into the wave. You either let the wave take you out to sea or to shore, but you don't really know where, or you can keep riding it in the hopes that you see the other side. And that was my story. I said, well, I'm already here. Why would I quit now? I've already given so much into this industry. Yeah. Let me just see where it takes me. And where it took me was to the doors and founding of Golden Group.
Yep. So let's talk about that for a minute. For me, as now that I hear more of your story and things like that, I'll be honest with you, it's no surprise to me that you went off and started your own business because, you're educated and motivated in an industry where stereotypically, at least, in my experience, most of the employees and the workers definitely don't have that level of education, and in often cases, not the same level of motivation. And so for you to have a business background as well, I'm sure as you were working in the industry, you saw the problems in the industry. Oh, yeah. So what was there a tipping point where you said, you know what, I'm doing this. This industry needs so much improvement. I'm going out on my own and I'm going to do it different.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the add-ons. I'm not proud of what I was forced to do. I mean, I was a project manager, so a project manager is the one that delivers the bad news. We have add-ons to put, but we oftentimes we foresaw those add-ons.
Yep.
We could have told the person, we could have warned them, but it was a very traditional tactic of construction. Like, yep. You get a
low
bid,
price to start,
and then you just throw them with add-ons, and then there was really no customer satisfaction. It was just like, I don't care. Like, yep. She has to pay. Tell her to pay, or we're not going to put the last nail.
Yep.
And so we were holding people by the throat, and that's something I didn't like. But I had no control over it. I mean, it was my paycheck too on the line, so I had to do what I had to do. And those were tactics that were being done every day. Yep. Tactics of, bid them low. Tactics of, like, it's okay what the contract says because they don't understand. Just make sure the shingles that manufacturer and everything else could be generic. Yep. So it was like so many things that were wrong. Yep. Sometimes we pull the permit. Sometimes we're like, don't worry about it. Just don't pull the permit. Just get it done. Get it done.
City or town doesn't care. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I have a friend. So it's all these things and being pushed and pushed and pushed to do all these illegal things. Or sometimes maybe they weren't illegal, but they were just not right, not ethical. And watching homeowners that I had to deliver the news about plywood or extra material, and then it would break my heart. Yep. And sometimes I was buying them out of pocket, and I didn't have to, but I was doing it. Sometimes I'm like, I remember one client specific. She was in West Roxbury. Her husband had just died of a massive heart attack. Like, she had 4 children, and here we were, like, manipulating her. And I remember just buying some material on my own and asking the guys to just do it. Yeah. Just get it done. I don't want her paying anymore. She's already suffered too much. Yeah. And there was moments like that really defined Golden Group, because I said, why can't nobody just do it and do it right and do it the way IT is done and do it the way hospitality is done? And nobody's being taken advantage in these other industries. So why in construction this is a norm? Why in construction it's a norm for people, and people don't stand up either. There's a two-sided story, because homeowners are not standing up for it either. Exactly. They're accepting this type of behavior, and it allows the behavior to continue.
Yep, absolutely. So you see all that's wrong in the industry and the things you'd want to change, and you just one day say, that's it. I'm out of here. I'm starting my own. How was that decision? Because I know you have mouths to feed at home. You have a lot going on. How was that transition and that decision?
So I opened Golden Group in 2012, but remember, in construction, even if you open a company, you're likely working for a bigger company. Yep. So from 2012 to 2015, I was a subcontractor for major companies, and in 2015, I decided to go direct to consumer, and that came out of like that want to just do something different. And I remember asking my boss to just franchise his company, but it was a very sharp offer. So I decided, like, I'm going to do this on my own. And he said, well, I've never seen a minority woman ever be a leader in roofing, at least not in the East Coast. And I said,
dump some gasoline on the fuel of your fire, right?
But you know what? He was right. I actually believed him at that time, because I said, you're absolutely right. I mean, think about it. Like, an Albanian woman like with no connections, like not even one single cousin in the United States gonna open a roofing company. Like that sounds crazy. But I told him like it wouldn't be right if I didn't try.
Sure.
It wouldn't be right for me to not try it. And I said, maybe I'm gonna be here begging for my job. And he's like, you absolutely are. And I said, you're probably right. I probably am, but I have to try. I had $15,000 in savings and I wanted to try.
Sure. Now, are you the type of person that when you hear stuff like that, does it motivate you to work even harder and make it happen? Or is that, which is absolutely fine. Are you the type of person where that really gets to you and you say, man, I wish I just had more supportive people in my life?
I think it's a combination of both. I think entrepreneurs like to say it motivates me. Like I just want to, but I don't think that's necessarily true. I think it's every entrepreneur listening out there, I think a part of them wants support.
Yeah.
Everybody craves support. Every stranger craves support. It's sad that sometimes we don't get it. So a part of me was like, yeah, I'm going to show this guy who I am. But a part of me is like, why can't somebody just say, like, I'm happy for you? Sure. But I think that takes a lot of character and it takes a lot of greatness in you to be able to be happy for somebody else, because our natural response is to be like, ugh, like you're gonna do it, whatever, like, sure. Or we put on a fake, oh, that's good for you. You know, every time somebody tells you that's good for you, that doesn't really mean it's good for you. Yeah.
So when you made the decision, obviously your ex-boss wasn't very supportive. How about family and friends and stuff like that?
No, because I only had my mom, my dad in America, and Freddie, which is my husband today. Yep. And I mean, I didn't really have many people. Nobody else understood it. Like my mom would tell some family friends that Greta's opening a roofing company, and they were like, oh man, her daughter, there she goes again. Like failure 2 times. Failure once for marrying out, having a baby out of wedlock. Failure twice for opening a roofing company as a female. Yeah. Like while our daughters are in Boston and beautiful, office buildings, wearing pencil skirts, looking fine. Her daughter is like in a roofing job site. Yep. I mean, and those were some low moments in my life, because I remember Instagram started getting really popular and I'm scrolling through feeds and I'm seeing people look beautiful, and here I am in the construction side with
covered
asphalt.
Covered
in dirt. Yep. Feeling like a man. Sure. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but I felt like I had lost my femininity. Yeah. And that hurt.
I could see that. Yep. Yeah.
That was like a really a very hurtful moment in my life.
Yeah. So when you first get started, you have the business background, right? So you got a little bit of education for the marketing and things like that. How was it finding the first customers?
Hard, because I mean, everybody tries to tell you like prepare everything, but I think every entrepreneur, when they start, like they're on survival mode. So they're like, I'll try anything and everything. Like, please, somebody give me a chance. Yeah. I actually just found my first business card ever just like a few weeks ago. And I think I copy and pasted every field of construction on there. And I may have been legally able to do only 2 services. Yeah. But I mean, I'm very open about that, because I don't think any of us understand or know everything, but it's the fact that we're willing to try and not give up that makes us who we are. And I think in the beginning, those early stages is just like, how do I get anybody? And at that point in time, Angie's List was like really big. Sure. Not as big today, but it was back then. And I remember cutting them like $7,000. I was like, just give me a very basic profile. Like, here's $7,000. Like, make it work, please. Somebody called me. And nobody called. Yep. For like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then finally a gentleman called because he had moved into Worcester. And he had moved into Lincoln Street from like Minnesota or whatever he was. I don't remember. I think Ohio. But it was really funny because he was just as lost as I was. So we connected.
Connected, yeah. He said, I used to live near there. I was displaced as well. Sure.
And he was like, okay, I'll give you a shot. He's like, you don't have references. You don't have referrals. But there's something about you. You understand your craft. You know roofing. I'll give you a shot. And that's all I needed. And then he became my biggest cheerleader. Like I made him like do a video testimony. I was like, can you please post a review like everywhere? Can I please put you in a reference? And he was like, sure. And then I landed Sam, a client in Sudbury. And then I landed another client. And in that first year, I started in October because that's when I had my fallout where I just couldn't take it anymore. And I ended things very professionally. To this day, every person I've ever worked with can still look at me and we can handshake and have a great dinner conversation, because I never left abruptly. I finished all my project. I took care of all my clients, and then I just ended. So from October to December, we did 15 clients. And to me, that was the money I'd never seen and success I'd never felt. So for me, I'm like, wow.
Absolutely. Now, for people listening too, as an entrepreneur or a business owner in the roofing industry, you were probably doing everything, right? So the finance and the quoting and the marketing and all that kind of stuff. But were you I assume you're probably on the job sites working, whether it's on the roof or wherever. Were you doing it all?
Yeah, I was a cleaner, shingle passer, whatever you need me to be. I never actually like really shingled as much because I'm not fast.
Sure.
And you have to be fast if you want to be profitable in this industry anyways.
Yeah.
So I was always a cleaner or a ground person or a shingle passer.
Which
or
is the
prepper.
hard work, by the way.
Yeah. I mean,
right?
that was when my mom cried. I remember my mom once came to a job site and she like wanted to cry because she said it was so sad to see her daughter like wheelbarrowing all the debris and bringing them to the dumpster. I mean, it was tough. I mean, looking back at it, I'd probably cry if I saw my daughter like that too.
Sure.
Not because of because anybody can do hard work. I just think it's because you don't want to see your child doing that much physical labor when you're blessed to be in a country like United States, where you have options and opportunity. But if you don't, there's no shame. I was never ashamed of what I did. I still do it again. But I think as a parent, you always want your child to not be as in such physical demanding labor, especially because it takes a toll on your body and it does hurt.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that. Yeah. So year one, though, we get 15 clients.
Yes.
You're feeling very successful.
Mm-hmm.
Did things skyrocket right away, or was it slow and steady for years?
I think we got really lucky because that was the big year of the ice dams, where people had so much snow removal needed.
Yep.
And we were so busy, our phone was ringing. So we were able to do over 60 clients in like 3 weeks of just snow removal, not actual roofing. But all those people were able to write reviews, and people didn't know what the reviews were about. So it looked like maybe the reviews were for roofing. So
added a lot of credibility right away.
It added up so much credibility so fast. And then you're right, I was doing everything. I was doing the contracts on a computer and a WordPress because who had money for it? I was copying other people's contracts and like copy and pasting legal terminologies that I'd learned in college. It was such a mess looking back at it. But it was like anything to make it look like beautiful and legitimate. Yeah. And then I was the marketing plan. I was like, let's get a logo up. Let's do a cheap website, which I would never recommend today. But even society's come a long way in the last 10 years of our education, just of how social media and how web presence works. But back then it was just like survival. It was like put some pictures up, copy and paste some stuff, like and just get going. And then banking, financials was like paper and pen. Not because I didn't have a computer. I still put it in a computer, but paper and pen because it allowed me to like see everything. I would write down everything,
visualize
like every
it.
Receipt. I would touch it and feel it. Like that ledger book was like, I'll be like, somebody's like
walking around
like
with it under your arm all the time.
Yeah, that was me. Like 1920s, like probably recreated in the 2000s in Worcester. Like Greta walking around with her ledger book. That was like my Bible. I would travel with it, fly with it. I have a similar version today, but today
you've computerized some of it. Yeah.
Of course, I had an accountant. I had to get one. I realized that I had to get one. I thought I was going to fail the first year in business because I didn't understand how to close the books.
Sure.
I remember panicking, and I remember telling the lady, like, it's such a mess. Let's just close the company down. Like, that was horrible. And she was like, no, there's ways around it. Like, we can, like, redo your financials. Like, let me show you how. And I'm like, oh, no, just close it down. It's, like, such a mess. I'm like, the IRS is going to come after me. Like, I don't want to be responsible. So it was such a learning curve. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs go through that because first year is so messy. You don't have time for an accountant.
Yep.
You're not building really bank. You're
or
just
maybe you can't afford an accountant.
Absolutely. And you're making random deposits, cash withdrawals because you're like, I just need $200. Like, let me go to the bank. And then when your accountant takes a look at that, they're like, what have you done? Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, just close it. Like, it's probably too bad to stay open. She's like, no, we can figure out a way.
Got it. So the second year, you have this credibility now. The books are starting to get straightened out. And things are starting to look good.
Things are starting to look good only because I was willing to continue to sacrifice.
Sure.
I knew that I was not going to pay myself anything more than minimum wage for a long period of time, and I actually did that for 4 years.
Wow.
I knew that I'm really big on liquid capital. I'm really big on a really strong standing company as its own entity, like foundation of a house, right? I want a really strong. So I said, how can I make Golden Group be this really strong, steady block? And I said, the only way I can do that is by letting Golden Group have liquid capital so I don't have to involve too many investors. I don't have to and I don't have investors today, but I don't have to involve that. And I'm not saying that's right. This model worked for me.
Sure.
For other people, it might be looking different. But I knew that I wanted to make something very strong. So I decided to leave money in every year. I gave myself a very minimalistic paycheck just to cover my needs, and I would leave everything in my account and be like, are you sure you want to leave it in? I'm like, yes. And now today she sees it. She sees why I did what I did and what strong company I built, because now it allows the company to have freedom, where now we can reflect some of those freedoms back to our clients as selling approaches. But those were tough days because it took a lot of patience to only pay yourself $30,000 a year. It took a lot. And you're watching the bank account, but I'm like, it's not my bank account. It's Golden Group's bank account. I just got to let Golden Group get strong, so then it can support not only me, but all others, and not and be able to withstand things like COVID-19.
Yep. And now you're at the point today, like you said, you have 30 employees and growing. How was that transition from being on the ground and working with the crew to true leadership and managerial responsibilities at this point? Because now you're managing multiple crews and multiple people and stuff like that. How was that transition for you?
It was not easy. I mean, there was a lot of days where I was being pulled apart, but it was realizing where I was not needed. And I think entrepreneurs sometimes get cheap because, again, another thing about leadership, like you have to learn where you need people. And like I remember my fear. I don't know if you share this, but I remember my fear. Like I'd be like, oh my God, that person needs 40,000. Oh my God, that's coming out of here. That person needs 80,000. That's coming out here. Like I'm like, who does? But that's how my brain worked, right? Like that's not how, because every time you bring on somebody, they're not necessarily taking from you, they're helping you grow.
Sure.
But I wasn't seeing that. All I was seeing is like, this is how much money we have.
Yep.
So if we had all these people, this is how much money we're going to lose. Oh my God. Like how am I going? Okay, let's say in year 1, I paid their paycheck, but year 2, we're out of business. And that's why it was so scary to hire people.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of entrepreneurs that I've spoken to, that's one of their biggest fears. And that's why they don't hire. Not because they don't need you or they don't see the value in you, because they're afraid, because all they're viewing is your paycheck, your family's income on them. And that's a very scary feeling, because they're worried that what if they don't pay you? What if they can't pay you? What happens to you as a person and your family and your loved ones? But the more I was able to silence that voice, the more I was able to hire people and say, okay, yes, we need an office person. Yes, we need this. Yes, we need an accountant. And then it was able to really allow me to leave that ground and then really rise to leadership and be able to oversee everybody. But it took a lot of time, and it took a lot of time conditioning myself to stop thinking that way.
Yeah. and you've definitely learned a lot along the way, whether it's education or working with your CPA, and it sounds like you've learned a lot the hard way as well. And now you're leading a company, very successful company, and you've even moved on to some additional endeavors. One of the things I read about you is Rootless. Tell me a little bit about what Rootless.
So I'll tell you why it started. So growing Golden Group, having these employees and really hiring people to do the daily task and positioning myself in a different role, where today I oversee things. Today I'm more in creative, and I tried to see what trend can we bring in. We started the roofing calculator 5 years ago with Pagano Media. We build the code, and I mean, we foresaw that something was going to happen. And when COVID hit, our roofing calculator was getting more hits from people all over the United States, because roofing calculator is just knowing the dimensions of your home, plugging it in, and then just getting an instant quote. So that's what today my job is. It's like, how can we better the homeowner? And can we do podcasting? Can we do YouTube? What can we do to change the stigma, but also help the consumer see roofing for what it really is? And through that came the podcasting. In 2 years, I started really heavily getting on platforms such as this. And but I would have to, sometimes when speaking in person, you'd have to fill out a questionnaire. And sometimes I didn't know where I belonged in that questionnaire. Some of the questions, I didn't know what I was. I was like, am I this, am I this, am I this, am I this? And then somebody asked me, like, what are you? And the name Rootless came to mind. I'm rootless, right? I have really no roots in anything. I wouldn't consider myself full Albanian, because I'm very much American, but I wouldn't consider myself full American either, because I'm still Albanian, and I don't think that I belong to a lot of stereotypes, right? Because people try to put me as a teen mom for so long, but I think there's so much more to me than just that. Yeah. And I'm not necessarily a roofer. People sometimes use that as a derogatory statement, because there's a lot of stigma in the word roofer. So when I say to people I'm a roofer, they automatically think that I'm lesser than, maybe not that smart.
Sure.
Maybe not that credit worthy of putting in a newspaper, which sometimes I had to fight for. I won't mention names, but sometimes some publications wouldn't push my story because I was a roofer.
Gotcha.
Like, why not? Yep. If I'm doing something and I'm doing it great, why not? Just because I'm successful, a roofer.
Yeah. And I'm
because
doing
sometimes it's better if it's a beautician, something that the society is able to digest better, right? Because society sees a woman in beauty, hospitality, like things that are just friendly to the eye of the reader. Sure. But roofer, I was like,
yeah. And so
we'll let you know.
So you come to the conclusion that you're rootless for all the reasons. So, but then you spin off a company.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the company. What does Rootless
I'm
do?
so excited. Rootless launches July 19th. It will be an educational networking platform. It's got 4 pillars to it. It's got the education, it's got the courses and the webinars, the experts, and the live networking. So you're able to have an account. You can read. So what is a blueprint? It's a 25-page document that has everything you need to know about the industry. So if you wanted to learn about roofing, we're giving you everything. We're giving you the statistics of not only how to start it, but where to find your niche. I mean, we give you like how much people are buying asphalt versus metal. Maybe you say, I want to really narrow it down. Maybe you want to go with the masses. And once you've digested this 25-page document, you also get the candid interview from that entrepreneur's point of view. So now you have a face, or you have a leader at the end of the pathway that's going to really push you to drive that business model, followed by the experts on the platform, people who you could hire or just network with. Whatever the experts have different openings. Some experts have services that they offer. Some are just there just to, throw in a couple of blog questions once in a while, forum questions. And then you also have the courses, so you can get down and watch easily digestible courses, all under 3 minutes, all done from the experts. And then live events. You can come to a Rootless event. Sometimes events are just going to be fun. They're just going to be to be edgy and be raw. And if you need to swear because that comes from your soul, then whatever. I also a lot of times when I speak, people want a politically edited version. Another thing of Rootless is to be raw, because politically edited, I think, is going to die with our generation. I think the new generation behind me or my daughter, they're going to be so raw because they don't need to be polished, and I think because we're seeing that, I said we have to create a platform where people are just raw and it's their story, and whatever they feel passionate about, because when people ask me to not mention the fact that I was a teen mom, right there you're asking for an edited version of my story. So I'm not giving you the full truth. And I've been asked at a lot of speaking events to do that.
Yeah. So now it's mostly an app, desktop and mobile. And is it strictly for entrepreneurs who want to start and grow a roofing company, or is this for any entrepreneur?
Any entrepreneur. It doesn't have to even be an entrepreneur. It can be an entrepreneur, somebody who wants to be innovative within a company. It doesn't have to be an entrepreneur to be on Rootless. It could be just somebody even finding a career path. I mean, I love doing the blueprints. I love going to the interviews, because I went to an interview of a girl who was a Harvard medical student, scientist, but became a world-renowned DJ, right? How cool is that story?
That is.
I went to a girl who was a fashion designer for Ali Tahari, but became a lingerie line designer, right? And then I went to a guy that built an app, who was supposed to be in corporate America, came up with this great idea and just left. I mean, we've done such crazy interviews with so many different types of people, and it's just crazy to see. This is to also allow people to see that there's more to than the traditional career path.
Sure.
You can, we did a blueprint on an empathist, somebody who teaches people empathy.
Okay.
Had a sociology degree. Maybe not a lot of people want to do it. But this gentleman did it, and he did it in a way that worked for him, because now he goes to big corporations and teaches people how to be empathetic towards situations and cultural problems in society, so they can be better, co-workers and just to coexist better with other people.
That's very cool. Very cool. So it launches on July 19th?
Yep. So
and how can people check out the app? Where's it going to launch?
It's going to launch on desktop first. So rootlessme.com. They can create a free user account, and if they like what they see, they can sign up for. We have three tiers. So there's the Curious account, Rootless Me, and Rootless Expert.
Got it. Perfect.
And it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be exciting. There's gonna be a lot of mentors, a lot of events, and it's about a movement. It's starting with me. It's starting with me because I was so tired of being asked to have an edited version of my story. I was so tired of being labeled as dumb, if I may say, just because I'm a roofer. And I was so tired of people telling me check off boxes. I don't know what I am. I'm not sure I am a lot of things, but I know that I'm Greta, and that's all that matters. And Greta is this girl with all these different stories and angles. And yeah, sure, when I go to Albania, I don't really feel Albanian. And sometimes here in Worcester, I don't really feel American.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that I'm not a combination of both those things. And that's what started Rootless.
I think that's very cool. So you definitely have a lot going on. What does the future look like for Golden?
Golden will always be there. It's the baby that's changed my whole life. It gave me home ownership. I never thought, looking back in my life, and when I had Kiara, I said to myself, if I just become a restaurant manager and like make a decent amount of money, like I'll be good for the rest of my life. If I can buy something not on the sale rack, because I would always go to the back of the store, but old habits die hard. I still go to the back of the store. Doesn't matter. I still go all the way to, like, there was little things I was looking for in life. And one of those was like, I want to be able to buy a dress and not be on the sale rack. I want to be able to have a job that gives me a 2-week paid vacation. But Golden Group gave me all those things and more. And today when I go home and I see that I have a home, and remember, like, this was just 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just 8 years ago, sometimes people get shocked because they might have only seen me 7 years ago. So now that they see me, they're like, wait, what happened? And what happened is hard work. And what happened is the ability to see more for myself. And that's another thing that Rootless is about. Because if I can show you that there's a way, and I can show you that there's somebody that had your story, but not your ending, that you're calculating for yourself, then I can open up your eyes to something so much more. And that was that analogy of a playground. I noticed with my son, the more playgrounds I kept taking him to, the more he kept wanting to try different playgrounds. And if I didn't take him anywhere, he was so content with like home or like our backyard.
Sure.
But our backyard seems not interesting anymore because now he knows like, oh, there's that park, there's that lake. I want to go there. You see, so that's curiosity, and that's why a lot of people are unfortunate, because they don't see more than their surrounding. And what if we showed them that, hey, look, Greta came from right here in your neighborhood, but look where she went. So don't limit yourself. Don't excuse success for yourself and say, well, good for her. She probably knew somebody. Because that's what a lot of people do. They say, good for you. You probably were lucky. You knew somebody, like somebody helped you. But what if that's not the truth?
Yeah. And you open everybody's eyes to a new world of possibilities.
And that's what Rootless is all about. But Golden Group will always be there. I love what I do. Today, I'm very passionate. Passion found me along the way. I started off just to leave poverty, and then I became passionate for the industry that I'm in today. And today, I don't see us stopping with it. If anything, I see us growing. And Freddie will always be there. Freddie is not only my husband, but he's the operations manager. And he has no intentions for Rootless because that's not his thing.
Sure.
He enjoys what he does every day. He loves the operations. He loves meeting clients. So he'll always be in Golden Group for those listening. So, you'll always have Freddie there. And I will always be there. But even if I have to step out momentarily to launch Rootless off the ground, it's just because this completes me. You know how they say, like, find something that complete me and do it? And I didn't believe in that saying. And I don't think that saying is appropriate for every age or every phase in your life. But today, in this portion of my life, this completes me. And this is like the closing of my journey.
I love it. And I can't wait to check it out. Rootless.me, July 19th.
Yeah, but the website is rootlessme.com. We're still working on getting the Instagram handle of rootlessme. But the gentleman doesn't reply. Anybody knows him.
Well, we will all check it out. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. I really appreciate it. And for everybody listening, we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Yeah, thanks. Awesome.
Thank you for listening to the Founder Story Podcast. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show. And don't forget to check out some of the other great stories.